Hey everyone, welcome back to the FNG Author Podcast. Today we are talking about what it means to be an independent author. I've got Gary and Will with me today, and we are talking about really just all of the different parts of the process it takes to get through when you're going to go indie. And so I have a little bit of experience with indie, and Will has a massive amount of experience with indie. And so Gary is going to go through and just pop off some questions for us. How you guys doing today? Anything you want to cover before we get ripping on this?
No, I'm glad you guys like your new shirts.
Yeah. We got new shirts, new
I like the mooses.
Thank you, Gary, for the shirts. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is
my
awesome.
pleasure. Got to have fun somehow, right? And if you guys are interested in these shirts, the company's called Bold Clothing. They're a Canadian company, so check them out. They're fun. Yeah, so I have no experience in the indie side of the house, as you guys know, because I kind of lucked out with my first book getting picked up by Aethon. So with Will's vast experience and Captain Salty's experience there, we felt this would be a great time for those who are joining us, who are writing or about to write or have written or might have been rejected from a publisher, but still feel you have something that you want to get out there. Indie is the way to go. So what I'd like to do first is just give us, Brent and Will, just to give me your quick summary of your experience of being an indie author. And then I figured we'd go dig a bit deeper into that. Sound good?
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. Well, let's do alphabetical and go with Brent.
So, man, indie wise, I knew so I'd been to 20 books to 50K a couple times, kind of trying to learn about the indie space and what it took, because you always heard about, everyone has the stack of rejection letters that they got from all of the different, trad pub and everybody else. And, and so you always have the self-doubts as an author that, you're never going to be good enough. You're never going to, whatever. So my thought was, I'm not even going to try that route. I'm not even going to try to get published with a, publishing company. So I'm just going to go indie. And so I started taking those steps down that road to do that. And I knew that I had 2 kids in private school. I'm like, I have $0 to invest in this entire process. So how do I do this? And KDP was, out there and was a thing to do. And so I thought,
what is KDP again?
Kindle Direct Publishing. So you can, it's basically you write something, you throw it up on Amazon and start selling, right? There's almost no cost to entry. And so my thought was, I'm gonna kind of just like build the war chest a little bit as I go along. And so I started off with a low content book for firefighters that was, how do you document the really shitty calls that you go on regularly, right? Because you want to be able to go back 5 years from now and say, hey, I was exposed to ethyl methyl bad stuff, or I had this mental issue, or, we saw, something horrendous today. And so to have that stuff documented, the date and time that actually happened is huge for, down the road. We're not as good as you guys are in the military, where we're like, we have it all documented for us. It's very much like you have to document it all yourself and then go back and go, I had 5 back injuries over my career.
Oh, it's not documented for us.
Okay. Well, seems like you guys have a much better process of getting through the stuff.
I think the big thing that we have is like Canada has Veterans Affairs Canada.
Exactly.
US has,
we have none of that.
VA.
So,
you guys are literally taking all this paperwork to a hospital and hoping they'll help you.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. And so the process for me was, if I can put out this low content book and sell this, make a couple of bucks, it gets me to a point where I can buy the software. I can buy the whatever I need to do to start actually writing. And so I did that. And so sold a few hundred copies of that, made a few $100. And then I started writing my Captain Salty's Fire Service Wisdom book. And that's just a book that just to help out new firefighters, guys that were struggling with probation, kind of going through probation. And
still available on Amazon.
Still available on Amazon for the niche market that needs that, right? For the 80 guys a year that need that. So I want to do that. And so I thought, that gets me to a point, if I could sell the Captain Salty's book or the series, if I was going to make that into a series, that gets me to a point where I can start writing sci-fi or whatever else I want to do, and not necessarily put a burden on my family, to pursue this dream of writing. And so I wrote Captain Salty's, and actually it went really well. I think It's been out for 4 or 5 years now. I make about $1,000, a little over like $1,200 a year on it, something like that. So I mean, it's not inconsequential money. It's enough for me to go to a conference every year or to go do something, right? Some of that gets kicked back into like ice cream for, the guys at the station. So, I like to kind of try to give back a little bit to that, but, so it for me, it was just all those little building blocks of kind of figuring out like where I needed to be with all of these little things to get me to a point where I could start doing independent publishing for real and to learn those skills that I needed to learn, to write better. Right. Because my writing capacity, my ability to write was not as good as where I wanted it to be. And so I knew I needed to take some of those initial stepping stones into where I needed to be. So that was really my process. And I'm sure we'll go into, a lot of the KDP stuff and going wide and whatever else we want to talk about. And Will's got a lot more of that covered than I do. So I'll hand it over to him.
All right. Thanks, man. Will, your turn, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I jumped into KDP with both feet, not knowing a damn thing. And long story short, I was inspired.
I don't mean to cut you off, but you did that kind of before it really took off, didn't you? Like before all these YouTube videos and how to and all that, you're kind of pioneering in that crest, weren't you?
Yeah, there was very little information out there at the time. We're talking about 2017-ish. It was minimal. And also the steps back then to be successful are different now because the market has changed and the algorithm has changed. And KDP is surprisingly been unchanged. The KDP process, when you log in, you create your account and you have the interface to upload your book and everything. That's actually been the same for many years, with just a few tweaks here and there. So that's nice. It's like the M16 to the M4. You upgrade the weapon, but you don't have to worry about training a whole new generation of soldiers because it's functionally the same, But in any case, I jumped in not knowing what the hell I was doing. I had no clue about editing. I had no clue about formatting, and it really showed. But MD Cooper stepped in and excuse me, I apologize, augmented or reformatted my transcript, and I re-uploaded it to salvage what I could, so I republished it. And I think there was like 400-something sales in a very short period of time. Back then, you could do that because they're the military science fiction. They're the audience to available book ratio was different.
Yeah.
There was a higher demand. So even with a relatively crappy book, and I'm only saying that because of my lack of experience, it was a good story. But I learned a lot of hard lessons, and especially when it came to editing, formatting, using templates, using the system, learning about Kindle Unlimited. Wow. The Kindle Unlimited, for those of you that don't know, is a program where people can pay a monthly subscription and then they can borrow ebooks and read them. And then the publisher gets X amount of cents per, I think it's like half a cent a page or something like, I can't remember. It fluctuates, but that's where your money is made in KDP, really. But I had to learn all that. And then I realized the hard way, I needed to really invest. If I'm going to make this work, I need to put the money into it. Need to invest in an editor. Need to invest in a good cover. And those expenses were really hard when you're active duty military and you got a bunch of kids, and that was extremely hard for me, but I ground it out and figured out the marketing. And for the first 6 months, I was in a net profit, and I made enough to cover most of a Disney trip.
Nice.
Yeah. Fast forward 10 years, you probably couldn't have gotten away with it under the same path.
Yeah.
No.
That
Now,
is for certain.
now with that, Will, now if you don't mind me kind of jumping in here with,
Yeah, go ahead.
just trying to put this into my head properly, because you both have done indie and you both have had kind of different experiences. Like, for one, you've had the expenses of editing. Brent, you didn't really go into that expenses.
I
So
had some expenses, but it was a few $100s. It was not, I didn't have multiple edits.
So with that, how does the KD program work in general? And what are the pros and cons to it for somebody thinking, oh, I can just upload this onto this already made system and my book's going to get out there. It's going to get seen. Did you have your cover done first? How did you do your cover? Did you look at keywords to put in there to get it out there? And realistically, how was it even advertised if you didn't advertise it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, when it comes to the cover, you have to have a cover before you can publish or even put your book up on KDP, period. That's a requirement. I mean, you can get away with uploading your manuscript later if you're setting it up to pre-order, but you can't get out of the so that you have to curate your cover pretty early on in the process. And
No, you did yours pre-AI, where everybody could just take a photo of themselves or whatever and just have some cover generated by what they're seeing, what they want to have. So how did you get that, instead of just going title by boom as just a generic title, to actually having cover art? And
right. So I curated it through, I can't remember what website. I'm pretty sure it was Fiverr. And there are a lot of cover creators on Fiverr. Now, you get what you pay for. I mean, I was on a budget, so the cover to my first book, it actually still holds pretty true. But I got lucky.
Yeah.
Is it Vivid covers that Rebecca Haskell does? Is that?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I believe you're right.
So you can, speaking of covers, I did the cover of this on my own, if you can't tell. And it was, I have a little bit of graphics design background, and so I thought, well, I can throw a cover together and make it usable, right? Again, like Will talked about, this book it's so niche. It's specifically for brand new firefighters, right? And it's always like, man, I'm always in the top 15, 20, 30 books in my niche. But it's like I'm in there with plumbing exam, how to pass your master plumber's exam or something like that. It's just an oddball place to be, right? And so I get away with having kind of a crappy cover on my book. If you look at the other firefighting books in that genre, they all have the same kind of crappy covers that mine do. So the threshold to entry on that was really, really low. But if you want, if you're uploading your romantasy, there's 100,000 uploaded a day, it seems like, on Amazon, you better have a good cover or else you're not going to get discovered on a lot of that. So like Will said, it's probably the biggest thing that you can do is to have a decent cover
early on. Yes.
And especially a cover that is good in thumbnail size, right? If you think your cover looks great like this on a full screen computer, that's wonderful. But people buy on their phone. They're on their phone scrolling for whatever they're doing. So you got to have something that looks good in a 1 inch by 1 inch image.
So with that, Will, I have to ask then, how did this happen? Because I love the fact that that's your face on there.
I invested in actually, it's the same cover guy that does MD Cooper stuff.
That's awesome.
Okay.
And cost-wise, very similar to Vivid covers or Rebecca Haskell, about industry norms. So if you go that route, you're going to get what you pay for. The guy is based in London, and Andrew Dobell or Doble. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce the last name, but it's Dobell. and he is also a writer. He's a writer, photographer, graphic artist. So he both writes and he does covers for other artists or other writers. Um, but yeah, I put my face on there just because I wanted a grizzled old veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like the
You
only
see one
image of
every
a
day in the mirror, right?
exactly, and and so Andrew was like, "Oh no, that's a great idea." So he worked with it. And he made my skin all dirty and had me. I chomped down on a cheap cigar and everything because that one is it's a hi-fi series or
Yeah.
HFI,
Yeah.
humans or space orcs, that kind of thing. So I wanted to have a grizzled old mercenary chomping on a cigar, looking all grimy, and stuck my
Quickly, just
face
say
out
what
there.
HFI is, just so people can.
HFI is a subset of sci-fi. It's humanity F yeah, and I'll let you fill in the blank.
Frickin'
And
yeah.
it's yeah. So it's basically a series of stories and or books, like a genre of sci-fi stories where the humans are the good guys, often tanks, often, kicking everyone's butts all the time.
Kind of
Kind of
completely
like that.
underrated by all the other alien species. Like, oh, it's just the humans, and then they like humans show up and kind of take
Yeah, and
everything
start
out, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And but what's important about the cover is that's the first thing that a shopper is going to see. And Brent
Mm-hmm.
hit the nail on the head. You have you get it's got to look good on a thumbnail.
Yep.
So you want it to be detailed enough to catch someone's attention, but you want it to be simple enough to fit in that thumbnail.
So now that we have the cover and you're got your manuscript and you're getting ready to upload it into the KDP program, between the two of you and Brent, you first, if you don't mind, what did you find the biggest pros and cons of doing it that way?
My goodness. So, one of the reasons I wanted to do the low content book before I even uploaded the Captain Salty book was just to walk through the KDP process, right? And because
Mm-hmm.
it's esoteric in its specificity of how you have to do things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what font I used. It was a non-standard font, right? So, without knowing what I'm doing, so I'm using
Right.
like, this is a cool looking font, I'll use this. And I ended up, I think I uploaded I tried to upload 17 or 18 times and it would not do it. And it
Oh,
is like
wow.
it is within like 0.01 of a millimeter on where your text has to be within the document and all this and that. What I figured out was there was one Y on page 140 that was like sticking out, just slightly sticking out of the outside of the,
Yeah.
the window, and it wouldn't let me upload it. And I mean, I spent hours fiddling with trying to, whatever I had to do, and finally figured out like I had to mess with the kerning to get the word to fit right or whatever, and then change it, whatever. So it was a
Mm-hmm.
pain in the ass. And it was strictly because I didn't know what I was doing. And there was no AI to ask at that time, so you're just flying in the dark trying to figure out
Right.
what you should be doing here. That was the
And
hardest aspect of it.
the cover has to be in the right format, or it
Totally.
won't take it.
Yeah. And you got to worry about, like, if you don't know what bleed is and you don't know what, like there's so many of these things that, like, if you don't know all of the industry terms and words and, how to make all that work, you almost have to have somebody hold your hand through the process to get through it. I imagine it's significantly easier now than it was then, because I can just jump on, whatever, chat GPT or whatever, and say, hey, why won't this upload? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the size of my documents. And it says, well, you're trying to upload a 16:9 and you have the wrong size format for your cover, or, whatever the case is. And so it's simpler now than it probably was then, but it was a gigantic pain in the ass for me. But once you figure it out and you understand all the, get over that kind of knowledge hurdle, it's certainly doable.
Mm-hmm. Then you
So you
have
had
to get
this.
in. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh no, I was
just
just going to ask you had the did you have similar, or is there something more you wanted to add to the pros and cons of that
no,
aspect? Well,
no. I mean, it's like Brent said, it's a game of frustration.
Worst game
Now,
ever.
now when it came to the cover, the cover artist already pre-formatted it correctly. So
Right.
I didn't have to worry about that. If I had made my own cover, all bets would be off. But when it came to the manuscript, I didn't have any main issues because I used a pretty standard font.
Mhm.
I don't remember what I used, but I used a very standard layout, and I didn't have too many issues. But I learned about page breaks. Apparently, those are pretty important.
Yeah, I learned that too the hard way.
But then moving on from there, you got to categorize your
Yeah.
book for going through the process.
And
And
that's where the keywords come in, right?
yes, well,
It's almost like that's like a hashtag almost with your book. So whatever you put like that, that'll come
you
up in searches.
actually you have to put in a minimum of 7
Okay.
keywords. But in each one of those fields, which is really, really nice, you can fit like 140 characters or something like that in each one of those fields. So you can stack a bunch of keywords on each one of those 7 entries.
Right.
But you have to select your categories, like, okay, sci-fi, science fiction, drill it down to sci-fi. Then what kind of sci-fi? Military sci-fi. Cool. Are you fleet or space marine? You select
Now with
2
that,
that
Will,
apply.
is that what going wide means?
No, going wide means you're not using KDP at all. Well, not necessarily not using KDP. It means that you're not enrolled in the Kindle Unlimited program. In other
Okay.
words, so when people are reading your book will not be Kindle Unlimited eligible if you go wide, because that means you're also putting your book available on Apple or Google or Kobe or these
Oh, okay.
other
Ingram
retailers.
Spark or something like that.
Right. You can do that, but you cannot be enrolled in Kindle Unlimited if you go wide.
Okay. See, that's something I learned because I always kind of assumed going wide, and I've heard it a bit, was by how many of those keywords were put in to eventually, so essentially getting your book across as much of Amazon as possible just by
Mm,
like the keywords.
no,
So thank you for teaching me that. I thought that was something different. So
That's
no.
that's
But
something. Oh, good.
no, you
That
take it.
okay. That's something where Will and I are on different sides of that, because
yeah.
like for him, he mostly sells KDP, right? So it's all go into an electronic device. My one book is 97% of it is softbound copy. So people are buying physical copies of my book. So for me, it's probably easier to go wide because I can integrate with Ingram, which talks to libraries and does all that kind of stuff, versus if your primary market is the Kindle market, it makes more sense to stay within that Kindle ecosystem and get all of your sales you can from Amazon.
No, wouldn't you think that would be one of the biggest differences between fiction and nonfiction? Because your first book's it's a
Correct.
nonfiction,
Yeah.
right? So it's almost like a textbook, if you will, right?
So you almost want a self-help textbook, yeah.
Excuse me. So you want that hard copy with you,
right?
So you can kind of highlight and stuff like that. Whereas in fiction, let's face it, as fiction writers, we know it's one and done. Very rarely people are going to re-listen to or reread your book more than once or twice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's an important aspect to mention, as well as writing something like you with your fiction, and then Will, you writing nonfiction and fiction, completely different aspects of the indie. So how cool is this for the FNG podcast, right? To have these two very different experiences and how they still intertwine, but still are on very different avenues. That's really awesome to.
I even went on my advertising and stopped advertising the Kindle version of my book because it made no sense for me to put advertising dollars behind a Kindle version when it was less than 2 or 3% of my sales total. So
now with that, I have to ask, because Will, you mentioned before that you were on a program where you had AI audio reading.
Yeah, it's a beta program that Amazon actually selected me to be a part of it, um, because they're trying to see if their virtual voice system will get off the ground.
Right.
See, for me, I no longer have the manuscripts to my very old stuff.
Right. You mentioned you lost
S-
those ages ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't really go back and make changes or do
Right.
or send a manuscript off to a studio and have an audiobook made or anything like that. It just wasn't an option. So when that came along, that gave me the opportunity to have an audiobook when before I didn't. And the downside is it's an AI voice. I've
Right.
gotten mixed reviews on the AI voice versus a human actor. And personally, I prefer human. I just really went with the program because I wanted to see where it was going to lead, and
Right.
gave my old stuff an opportunity to have an additional market. But going back to the keywords, the keyword research is critical, and how you do keyword research varies. There are tons of YouTube videos out there, but I'm going to try to simplify the process and explain it the way I do it, because I found a very easy way to do it that's simple and efficient, and it's exactly the way my brain works. And what you do is you open up an incognito tab. If you've got a VPN, go ahead and use it. Whatever you got to do, you got to trick Amazon into believing you're not you. Because
Right.
as soon as you go to Amazon, Amazon is going to try to log you in, find all your preferences, your search history, and it's going to tailor make what you see based on your history with Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're doing keyword research, you don't want Amazon to know it's you. You want Amazon to assume that you are a customer that it knows nothing
Right.
about. So you're in the incognito, you're not signed in, nothing like that. And you go to the search bar and you start typing in keywords that relate to your book, specifically your genre, your themes, anything like that. And it'll come down with the pull down menu, the little drop down, and you
Yep.
can see the top keywords that are being searched in your genre based on what you're
Right.
inputting. And you grab all those top keywords and you put them into your KDP, and you
Right.
stack as many of those as you can, as broadly as you can, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to teach Amazon exactly how people should be looking for your book.
Right.
And also, as the market changes, just so you know, maybe you want to recheck your keywords every 6 months
Yeah.
to a year,
Mhm.
because the market will change. New keywords are going to come up. And you want to be ready for it.
Now, but back to you, Brent, because you have your book as Cap Salties is actually narrated.
Correct. Yeah.
So, how did you go about? Obviously you paid for that service?
Yeah.
Did you find that worth the investment, or not putting anything against the narrator personally? Just did you find a return on your investment for paying for that out of pocket when publishing yourself?
So interesting question. I thought,
I'm an interesting guy.
I thought because firefighters are lazy for the most part, like, we're going to take the path of least resistance. I thought, what a great opportunity to like put this out in audio, and then guys will pick this up and like they can listen to it back and forth to academy or, to work or whatever. This will work out great. So, with my book being short, I think it's, is it 4 hours or 6 hours? It's not very long. I thought this is an easy sell for me. So I jumped in and started figuring out how to do that audio process.
3 hours and 27 minutes.
3 hours, 27 minutes. So, so going through that, I figured out that, what am I trying to say? The ACX portion of Amazon, which is what does the audio recording, and that's the Audible side of Amazon. You jump on ACX, and I think they want the first 6 pages or something like that. And you put that out there as kind of an RFP and say, hey, I'm looking for, I want a male voice actor. I want this kind of tone of voice. I want, this kind of whatever.
Okay.
And so you put that out there and you say, this is what I'm looking for. And I think within a week, I had 19 or 20 different people that had read a portion of my book to kind of give me an idea of what it was going to sound like for them reading it. And so I found a guy I liked, did a great job. He was just exceptional. Hit just the right tone that I wanted, which is kind of like the idea for my book is it's 3 a.m. You just got back from a bunch of crappy calls. The captain happens to be sitting in the kitchen, and it's just an opportunity for like the young guy to ask the old guy questions. And that's kind of the premise of Captain Salty's book. And so
very cool.
He just hit that tone exactly, right? Like he knew exactly what I was looking for on that.
Right.
So I hired him. I think it was $100 an hour, or $120 an hour, or something like that. And there's 2 ways to go about that. One is you pay the complete cost of it and you own the entire book, right? The other is it's a profit share where you get a certain portion and they get a certain portion. And it's more expensive to do it where you own the whole thing, but you also have complete control of your book that way too. To do it the other way, they still they have control of it as well. So if you want to go wide, if you want to do something different with it, if you want to give it away, all of a sudden you have another party in that process, and they have to have their 2 cents in it too. So for me, with it being a short book, it only costed me $400. It made wild sense for me to go ahead and take care of that and just pay it out of pocket. Now, as far as the second part of your question, like, did I actually make any money off of it? About 2 years in, I finally got my money back off of that.
So that's good.
For me, it didn't make a lot of money for me, and I still don't make a lot of money on the audio side of that one little book. But it's also that was me figuring out the market too, that the market just really isn't there for that kind of audio book, that people won't spend their one Audible credit on a 3.5 hour book, to get that out. So
I don't know if it's that or if it's mainly what we touched on earlier about the fiction, nonfiction.
Yeah.
I think sometimes a nonfiction book is better to be treated as a textbook.
Yes.
Especially for us older guys. Like, I know textbooks now are all ebooks and everybody gets an iPad or whatever for their school.
Right.
But highlighting a page and bookmarking a page, such as by folding it over or putting a tab on, I could see, I'm pretty sure there's several copies of your book like that.
Yeah.
Around. Now with that, kind of moving right along here, I hear a term a lot. And as a new guy who hasn't been indie, I understand it on the Aethon, like, hybrid publishing side of the house. So I'm guessing Will probably be our subject matter expert on the what is rapid release and how is it important to the indie world?
Yeah, rapid release is absolutely critical to the indie world. It's actually pretty critical if you want to make money off a series, period. Whether you're indie, whether you're wide, whether you're with a publisher. And a rapid release, like a 1 month interval, is a good middle of the road rapid release schedule. I've done them 2 weeks out. I've done them 3 weeks. I've done them 6 weeks. But
obviously the books are written beforehand, right? You didn't write a book in between that.
That's the key. You want to have at least 3 books written before you publish the first one, or before the first one releases. Because people have a short memory. If they read a book 1 in your series, they're not going to wait around for 6 months for you to get around to writing it again. You put it out into the ether. Well, by the time they even see a notification, if they're following you, they've forgotten your entire book already. So that rapid release is really good for multiple reasons. Let's say book 1 goes and hits the market, right? And you got your pre-orders in, they count as sales on day 1, and then the algorithm is building momentum, and the algorithm is going to reward you if you've got another book coming out, because it knows, hey, the sequel books are where the money's made. Amazon wants to make money too. They get 30% of the pie. So they're going to prioritize, as far as the algorithm is concerned, books that are in a series over a standalone
Right.
because they know they can make more money. And rapid release is a good way to keep the readers invested into your series. If they know that it's only like if it's been out for a week or two and they get it and they read it, let's say a week later, and they want to read the next one, and they see it's coming out in a week or two, awesome. They'll pre-order it. But if on the flip side, if they look again and there's nothing on the horizon, they're going to forget about you altogether, and they're going to move on.
So that's a good takeaway for our listeners who are writing and have like more than once, like a trilogy, say. Make sure your trilogy's written then before you even think about publishing them, because writing a book every month, I don't think is that even possible?
For Rick Partlow, he's the only one I know.
Yeah,
yeah. But I mean, that guy's
Craig
a machine.
Martell does it too. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing really is you just gotta have a launch plan, and that really, if you want to go back to the beginning, your launch plan is critical. You have to plan. Okay, well, I'm gonna write this trilogy. I'm gonna write all 3 books, get them edited, and curate the covers. At that point, you can decide whether you're going to do audio or not,
Yeah.
But
with that, Will, because one thing I wanted to touch on to that is because you mentioned a lot word count. So you have these novels written, you're ready to self-publish them, but why is word count so important? Like I get like between a novella and a novel, but where is that?
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, perceived value is huge and critical. If somebody's shopping for a book, it may not be me, but I do look at it myself. I'll look to see how long the book is. If giving up this Amazon credit, like Brent with his book will only be in 3.5 hours, I may not want to give up an Amazon credit for it.
Yeah.
So in our genre, military science fiction, about 100,000 words in that ballpark is pretty much the industry standard, which is a lot of the reasons why Aethon contracts are between 80 and 120,000 words. And also look at it this way. A book with 350 pages, let's say you have 2 books releasing on the same day, same genre, similar popularity with the author. One is 350 words, the other one's 425. Well, Kindle Unlimited pays you per page.
Yeah.
So for the same book or for the same product between those 2 authors, the one that had the higher word count is going to make more per read through than the person who had a lower content book. If that makes
a lot of sense.
But on the flip side of that, as an author, like I can't seem to write a book that's less than 130,000 words. I don't know what my deal is. I can't do it.
You're a very good writer.
Well, I'm verbose.
You're a very good descriptive writer.
I'm verbose. But my thing is,
and you use words like verbose.
Verbose. If Will writes 3 books at 100,000 words and I write 3 books at 130,000 words, Will has a whole other book written. Book number 4 is written while I'm still writing my 3 books, right? So as an author, it almost pays you sometimes to write that 100,000 word book instead of the 130,000 word book.
I'd have to disagree with
you're
that.
You're making your $3.99 again.
But your 130,000 word book compared to say my 100,000 word book. The 30,000 words, to me, is not a deal breaker, especially when it's like, yes, we're both science fiction writers. Yes, we're both military science fiction writers, but we're very different military science fiction writers.
Agreed.
So there's aspects of your 130,000 words that would that have appealed to me. I was lucky enough to read your book, that if I saw that online, I would probably buy my book, Will's book, and your book all at once, because they're 3 complete different books. So realistically, I just bought 330,000 words with 3 Audible credits. That's going to last me quite a while.
Yeah, I guess where I was going with that is like, you just have to make the decision as an author, or do you want to write more books with less words or fewer books with more words, there's pay there either way, right? Like you just kind of got to figure out what your audience is and how it works best for you.
Now with that, so the books are written, the covers are done, everything's good to go. How are you marketing it, and what is the launch plan, and why is it important?
Okay. Well, on the marketing side, first of all, you got a couple of options. You got social media marketing. Meta, for example, is probably the biggest one out there, even though Facebook is a little bit old fashioned. Actually, Facebook's kind of making a comeback with the younger crowd. But meta marketing is still between between Facebook and Instagram and Reels, that it's still a viable, still very viable. You have to create a marketing account, use their metrics, and you have to. Oh, we could do a whole show just on marketing. I would really love to bring an expert on this, but because my skills are so out of date, I have a hard time. Like, I would have a very hard time if I was to set up an ad campaign right here today. I would have a very hard time getting an ROI because it's a very specific skill set. And I'm not saying it's too complicated to figure out, because it's obviously not insurmountable. It's not impossible, but it is very tricky to get your return on investment. And you're going to have to eat some dollars if you want to do A/B testing and try to see which ads are working better. And that's the big thing nowadays, is the A/B testing. You create two simultaneous ads, maybe one is slightly different than the other, and you compare the two performance-wise, and then over time you pick the one that's performing better, then you A/B test again, make a different change, and then keep on going, and you tweak it like that. The benefit of that is you're eventually going to get a more effective, more more effective ad that's going to give you a better ROI. But it takes money because you're having to pay per click with Meta and all that stuff. So you're gonna throw a little bit of money out the window at the very beginning until you get a really good ad campaign built up. But
Now, one thing, Will, we've been focusing a lot on indie, and to be fair, indie seems very hard, very negative in a way when you're compared to a publisher. Now, having dealt with both and not wanting to get you in trouble with your publisher, what would you say is the main benefit then to self-publishing versus the pub or hybrid?
total control. You have total control, which is a good thing or a bad thing depending on what your skills are in marketing. The other way to market is also through Amazon itself, which is an entirely different skill set. You're going to put in keywords. You're going to try to advertise through Amazon's the madness. Wrote the book on. Yeah. But in any case,
it's just my reminder to eat lunch. That's all.
Yeah, I don't need a reminder for that.
I'm pretty good at reminding
I
myself.
really don't either. It's just long tail. So you have full control. Now that you're dealing with Aethon, and now your second series with Aethon's coming out, you lose your control. So what is the benefit then of being with a publisher then via being with being an indie author and publishing everything yourself?
Focus.
And that's open to both of you, by the way. So
Yeah.
It's focus. You're focusing on your work, your story. You're writing the best manuscript you can. You're focusing on quality and all those intangibles that only you can control.
right.
You know, you focus on that. If you're an indie author, you have to end your writing session, take off your hat, put on another hat and then spend the rest of your time working on your marketing campaigns,
Yeah.
or curating an audio book, or it's like Brent was saying with how he curated his audio book for Captain Salty.
Yep.
You got to do all the legwork if you're pure indie. Now, but if you do everything right, you learn how to market, you got a good cover, you've got a great blurb, you've written your story to market, and you've got a trilogy coming out, and you're doing all the things, and let's say it actually turns a profit. You keep more of what you earn if you're
Right.
indie.
Of course.
Right. However, on the flip side, with Aethon, for example, and I'm sure it's the same with Variant or CKP, and, some of the others out there. The biggest benefit is they handle all the background minutia for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the trade-off is I can't see my sales on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can see as far as my book's performance is where it is in the rating, or where it is in the standings, and where it is as far as reviews and things like that, all those indicators that it's selling. But you don't have the raw data until you finally get paid on it, and they send you the breakdown. They send you a spreadsheet with a complete breakdown of all the different formats, what they made, what Aethon's cut is, what your cut is, and then they give you a bottom line.
Right.
You're going to probably do better with a publisher than you would indie, just because they know how to market, they know how to put all the keywords in, they know how to curate the covers. You put in your input, obviously, but they're going to tell you if you're off base, and that's what I appreciated, because there was a couple of suggestions that I wanted for my covers, and then Steve was like, no, that's too campy. Let's try, have you considered doing XYZ? And it came out with a better product.
I think
if I
there's
had
also
gone it alone.
Oh, good. I didn't mean to catch you
No,
up.
I was just saying, if I had gone on alone, there would be a couple of detailed things that I would have missed otherwise.
I think there's also something to be said for when you have a book and you have the little Aethon tag up in the corner, or you've got the CKP, or you've got the whatever, people are going to be more willing to click on that and give it a try, because it is a somewhat curated, piece of a work that they know that that Aethon does not put out crappy products. They know that CKP does not put out crappy products. So they're taking less of a chance by clicking that and going, well, I like the Four Horsemen universe. I like, Will's universe. I like whatever. They're going to click on that and take a chance on that before they will an indie pretty regularly, unless you've got a really, really hot cover that they just want, they can't help but click on.
Well, especially too, right? Like, I know how I discovered Aethon personally was through Rick Partlow. I was following one of his shows or one of his books, and then it was my God, the name escapes me. Contact Front.
Yeah,
was with Aethon, and I'm like, and you always say, "Oh, discover more from Aethon." So I checked out Aethon. I'm like, "Oh my God, all these great books." That's where I found Jeffrey Haskell, and then a bunch of other guys. And so just, you're 100% right. Just having that Aethon attached does open but it's also helping them too, right? Like, even on my paperback copy, it's so cool to see.
Yeah,
all the titles, like, hey, these guys are publishing too. So it's kind of brings you back to the military mindset, where you're part of a team and you want everybody to be successful. Now with that, how would you define your success then? Like, how did you know you were a successful indie author? What was that line for both of you guys where you felt, all right, I can possibly make a living out of this, or if I keep going, I can make a living out of this?
It's funny that 20 books to 50K, there's a Facebook group, and there's a couple other things that they do, in media. And they have different, like, they have their own internal rankings. So it's like, they have, like, I don't know, it's like bottom feeder, and then whatever, it goes up to like salmon or something,
Prawns,
right? When you're making
salmon,
$100,000 a year, or whatever it is. And it's funny to watch people on that, because some people are like, it's a major thing for them where they're ranking at, right? for me, it
Mhm.
was like to know that someone bought my book and then to get feedback that said, "Hey, I really appreciated this," or, I just got an email a couple days ago from a person that said, "Hey, my captain gave me this. I really appreciate it. I got a ton out of it. It really meant a lot to me that you would spend the time to write this for, new probationary firefighters." And for me, that was the biggest payoff, even more than any kind of money I ever made off of it. But I look at it and I'm like, I am thousands of dollars richer because I wrote this book versus not ever having written a book. I'm not, I don't make enough to make a car payment off of my book monthly, but just to know that I'm out there and, I am a professional author because, that's the idea of being a professional is you're getting paid for
Well,
it.
it sounds
So
like the biggest payday for you, Brent, was that it gave you that confidence boost that maybe a
absolutely.
lot of authors probably need.
Absolutely. Yes. And to know that you're good enough, someone thinks your work is good enough for you to continue to write. And to me, that was exactly what you said. It gave me the confidence to go, you know what, I could probably write a science fiction book and turn out a fairly good product.
It's awesome. Yourself there, big guy?
I look at it as dollars and cents. What is my overarching return on investment just as a metric? Because I'm all
Right.
about metrics. I have to be able to see results in an organized way in order for me to recognize it. And I think turning a profit on a project in a short amount of time and getting paid back for it with a
Mhm.
little bit extra, to me that was the mark of success
That's
because
awesome.
I knew I was following a format that worked. Now, did I become a New York Times bestselling author? No. But I did start building a very small, modest, but yet dedicated fan base.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
And
for sure.
and it really helped. Like when the Nomad series came out, my Blood and Metal series, which was previous to that, actually took off again in the rankings.
Nice.
And it's still making money. Like I wouldn't sit there and say, "Oh yeah, I could live like a fat king" or any. No,
Yeah.
but it's extra cash and it comes in and you feel like you've earned something. You've created something. You made something out of nothing through the sweat of your own brow and the content in your own mind.
Right.
Yep.
And that alone is its own reward, pretty much.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, we have time for 2 more questions. And because I've been doing all the questions, I'm going to choose them. So, uh, pen names. This is always something that fascinated me because when I sent in my book to Aethon, it was under Jake GK Butt.
Mm.
And when Aethon accepted or offered me my contract, they did 2 things. They took the Survivors War, they took the off, and they said Gary Butt for author. So what's the deal with pen names? Should you start with them or should you keep one in case you want to do a different type of series? Like I hear a lot of people going, you should write under one name for one genre and then another under another genre so you're not mixing up your name with the genres.
That's 100% right. I'm gonna let Brent take this because he looks like he's chomping at the bit.
Well, it's a funny story. So, I was P's and Q's Publishing had something for they just had a short little anthology thing for kaijus, right? And like I don't know what a kaiju is, giant stompy monsters, Godzilla, think Godzilla or something like that.
Yeah. Godzilla's a kaiju.
And so when I write, I've got my main manuscript open, and then when I just get blocked or I can't figure out what I'm doing on my main manuscript, I'll start writing a short story. And I thought, well, this would be a fun process to kind of do this short story. So I jumped in and started writing this little kaiju story just for this prompt that they had for this anthology. And it got accepted. They wanted it. And so I'm like, great, this is awesome. And I I was on their Discord, like reading through with some other authors, and there was one guy on there's like, and he said jokingly, which I did not know, said, "Man, I'm so glad that you accepted my kaiju romance story for this these two kaijus that were getting it on, kind of a kaiju porn thing, right?" And I'm like, "Oh dear Lord, I do not want my name associated with this in any way, shape, or form," right? So I jumped back on with P's and Q's, and I'm like, "Hey, can I use a pen name for this rather than using my own name?" And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely, you can do that." So I used Brett Barron as my pen name. And the more I got to looking at it, and I think Will mentioned this, was your name on Amazon is there is an entire metric connected to your name.
Mhm.
So if you have a flop, if you have something that goes wrong, if you have something that is not good associated with your name, it is going to change your rankings within Amazon itself. So your name is very, if your intention is to write military science fiction, you need to keep that for your that needs to be protected and used in that context versus
So if
writing a
you're
kaiju
looking
story that
for-
may or may not have kaiju porn in it, right? So
So if you're looking for kaiju porn stories, it is Brett Barron. If you're looking for military
Brett Barron,
sci-fi, it's Brent Gaskey.
it's Killer Kaiju. So go pick that up.
Well, I mean, Brent made a good call there because I mean that book didn't really sell super great.
No,
I think I made $4 off of it. So
yeah, Amazon remembers. Amazon remembers what makes money and what doesn't, and it's going to associate your name with it.
Yep.
Now, when it comes as far as you're concerned, Gary, you're going through Aethon, so the likelihood that yours would be a resounding failure would be much smaller. But if you're an indie author starting out and you know nothing and you're doing everything for the first time, I would recommend using a pen name, because if you fall on your face, and
you
you
bounce
learn
back
those,
with a new name.
yeah, you can bounce back with a new name. And once you're confident enough in your writing and you built up somewhat of a success or whatever, then you can start using your real name towards your other projects. I was lucky that I came into the industry when I did, because even my crappy stories didn't flop. So it preserved my namesake. But yeah, I don't think I think if I were to ever do some kind of crazy side anthology like Brent did with kaiju porn, I would I would definitely use a pen name, because I don't want my name, like, when people look you up as an author, you don't want that associated with it. Especially now, when it comes to between military science fiction and space opera, you can go back and forth between those.
Yeah,
sure.
But if you're going from science fiction to romance, that's no. My name is XYZ.
So here's the thing now, guys, because we're gonna have to do another show on this. So if you've made it this far and you have not had your questions answered, two things I'm gonna tell you to do right now is, one, know that we will put out another indie show, and for two, if you have a question, throw it in the comments or join our Discord and ask us there. This is not just a one and done thing. We're going to keep doing this. Now, for the last question of the day, I'm going to ask you what is the number one tip for a budding author out there right now, writing their book or just finished their book, either hasn't heard from a publisher or doesn't know how that works and just wants to get it out there? What is the advice from the two of you who have done it?
Will hit it on the head earlier, and it was and I've heard Nick Cole say exactly the same thing. Write your book, and then write another book, and then write another book until you have a trilogy, and then release your trilogy. And that has got to be the number one thing that, as far as the algorithm at the moment for Amazon, that's what they're looking for.
Right. Then for today's tip, it's about establishing habits. We all have lives. We all have obligations, kids, hobbies, spouses, jobs,
Podcasts.
you need to establish a habit.
Mhm.
And so even if it's writing 200 words a day, carve out a space for yourself, even if you got to wake up an hour early or go to bed an hour late.
Mhm.
Write a little bit every day. Now, some people can't do that. Sometimes their weekends are busy. Me, if I have a contract, I'm writing 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But if I'm writing 7 days a week, I'm less concerned with my daily word count and more concerned with missing a day of writing, because it keeps my head in the game. It keeps everything, all the continuity together.
Absolutely.
So make it a habit to write daily, even if it's only a couple hundred words.
Yeah. One thing I've learned, because I was like, being retired, I write Monday to Friday, treat it like a job. Usually getting about 2,000 words a day, good or bad words, getting the words out. But I do find I still write a bit on the weekends now, because it's also my kind of my own little space, or I get an idea or whatever. So just a lot of your tips that we've been listening to have actually generated my habits even better. So these aren't just empty tips that Will's giving us at the end of every show. They're valuable even to us. So,
Yeah.
well, thanks, guys. Like, I know today I was the interviewer, and I appreciate your answers. Like I said, I still
great
think we're going to
job.
have to do another. Thank you.
Awesome.
But I do think we're going to have to do another episode, and I would love to do an episode with the marketing idea you mentioned, Will, for indie authors, because I can only imagine how daunting that is today.
Yeah, that could be its own series.
Yeah, because one thing I've noticed is I joined a Facebook group for authors to help get your book out there. I was just more curious. And every time it asks, "Oh, I'm looking for books or get your book out there," right? So you put your book out there. Almost immediately, you're getting a message offering creative video commercials for your book, or do you need an editor for your next book, and stuff like that. So there's so many traps out there for new writers that I also want to hit on.
It's the mining economy. The individual prospector may come up with nothing, but the guy who's selling the shovels is making a profit.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot to go into, and I'm so happy we touched on this today. So maybe
one thing, Gary, there is some spots still open for the FNG podcast kaiju romance anthology that will be coming out later. So if people want to do submissions, we would love to hear them.
Mechagodzilla, what's that in your hand?
Mothra, are you happy to see me? Or
you're like, no,
Sorry.
Rodan. Down, Rodan.
Godzilla, have you been working out? You look fantastic.
Oh, Amazon probably has there's probably a subgenre of that out on Amazon at the moment.
Well, remember one of the genres my book was in, and the top 5 were like military sci-fi romance that I never even knew existed, and wish I didn't know existed, but they were in the top 5. Like,
yeah, good job on that, bro.
I blame the readers for letting it happen.
I blame the writer for writing it.
I don't blame the writer for trying to write a niche.
No, for sure. But I couldn't imagine coming up with 100,000 words about an alien love story and then still having it in a military science fiction thing or erotica type thing. Like,
well, that's why we're doing the short stories, is because it's going to be, you get right to the point. There's no world building. We're just going straight to two kaijus going at it.
This is a one and done. This will never happen again.
Oh,
one of them may not survive.
I suppose we better close her down, guys.
Sounds
right. Good. Looks like this might need some editing. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for being honest and forthcoming with your answers for these questions. And thanks for watching us. And if you want to keep watching us, please like and subscribe. If you have questions, hop on our Discord or ask them in the comments. We're pretty approachable dudes and have no problem answering any question. There's saying in the military, there's no such thing as a stupid question, just people who refuse to ask them. So with that,
bye all.